Welcome to another edition of 805 Sports Talk. This week we got a lot to talk about. We're going to go on area baseball, NASCAR, softball, and some CIF basketball. But first, we're going to talk about one of the best pitchers in the area. He's a junior at Righetti, Matt Sauer, right-handed pitcher. He's 6'4", over 200 pounds, has a fastball in the 90s. This week he was in the news. He was chosen as a underclassman All-American by Perfect Game. So I caught up with him at practice this week. He talked about what he brings to the team, some leadership. He's also committed to play baseball at Arizona. He talked about that a little bit. And this is a guy that might be drafted in June 2017. He's just a junior right now, so we kind of caught up with him, Coach Brian Tomoka, and both his catchers at practice this week.
I've been playing with all those kids this whole summer, and I realize those kids you could tell those kids are at the next level, and it's a real honor to be named with them. And I don't know, it's just a great privilege to be named to that.
What's it like playing with guys like that? I know the competition around here is definitely tough, but it seems like playing Perfect Game stuff, playing with Team USA, that's a different level of competition. How does it feel competing against those guys? Do you feel you fit in competing at that level?
Yeah, you could definitely tell a lot of those kids are at next level, and it's pretty crazy facing all the kids because you can't just throw the fastballs and everything like you do here, but you actually have to be a pitcher, not just a thrower when you're there. And I think I go up against them pretty well.
What kind of drew you to Arizona?
Well, the recruitment process with me was very good. I thought they did a great job with that. And then their pitching coach was probably the main reason I went. He just clicked with me, everything he said. His name's Coach David Long, and everything he said just made sense to me, and it just felt like a perfect fit for me because he's had over 28 MLB pitchers, and it just seemed like a perfect fit.
Okay. You're a junior now, so I guess about a year from now in June is the draft. Do you think about that at all? Being just a high school junior, how do you feel about that being about a year away?
I have thought of it a little, but I try not to think of it because I just want to focus on what we're doing right now. But it'll be pretty crazy seeing what happens next June, my senior year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Matt has a lot of talent. He's proven that he can pitch, and I mean, he's our starting shortstop also. So I think aside from just the talent-wise, I think he brings a lot more to our the Righetti baseball program and his leadership skills. He plays the game the right way. Works real hard in practice. I mean, he works hard, just as hard in practice as he does during the game. So I think that's something that all our guys can learn from. And yeah, I think his leadership qualities is as important to us as a high school team as his pitching potential and his talent.
Well, coming up from JV over the offseason, I got to play with him on the Wahoos, and that's the first time I really got to catch pitches like that. I went from catching 76, 78 to 91, 92, and just the movement he has on his pitches is insane. It's his two-seam is crazy action inside, and his slider's crazy action outside. It's difficult, but it's pretty easy when he throws it right to your mitt every time.
Okay. And Tyler, I guess you haven't had much work with him, but do you want to catch a guy like that, a guy like Matt? Does it help your game at all? How do you feel about having an arm like that on the team?
It's pretty good because it's more challenging, so it's more fun to catch than just like being able to just catch the normal speed, and it makes you work. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Do you feel like catching a guy like Matt does that improve your mechanics behind the plate, everything you do behind the plate? Does that actually have an impact on you? You think?
It definitely does when you got a guy throwing 90, and it helps you work on your receiving, your framing, your blocking, because you got to be on your game when you got a guy throwing that fast. You don't want pass balls or dirt balls, especially he likes to throw his slider in the dirt too, so you got to block that thing and throw him out at first.
Yeah, so it was really interesting catching up with Matt Sauer. He's not your typical pitcher. He's a stellar athlete. He plays in the infield. He's a starting shortstop at Righetti. He makes some nice plays in the infield. He can hit, and he was also a member of the basketball team. So it's good to see a player of his caliber, a pitcher that might be drafted in the next year or so that switches it up, mixes it up, and plays a number of sports. So that's really good to see. Coach Tomoka talked about his leadership skills, what he brings to the team. He's just a junior, but he definitely, has some good characteristics beyond his years. Also caught up with Zach Anderson. He talked about what it's like catching a guy who throws 90 miles per hour. There's not too many pitchers like that in the area who can reach 90 on the radar gun. So it was really interesting to catch up with those Righetti baseball players. And our next segment is going to be focused on Lompoc Valley baseball. I know Jacob caught a lot of Lompoc Valley action on the diamond this week. So Jacob, talk about that.
Yeah, I've gotten to see a lot of baseball the last couple of weeks, which always warms my heart, which is a good thing when you're in the Lompoc Valley watching baseball because it can get a bit cold. But I've got to see Cabrillo and Lompoc a lot, and Matt Sauer is most likely going to be an all-area baseball player for us. I got a chance to see Dylan Maiden of Cabrillo, who will also be on that list most likely. And Cabrillo played a playoff caliber baseball last week. They played 2 games against San Ynez, and this is it's a really tough LPL shaping up this year. But you would expect those teams to battle out for the top of the league, and the league is trying out something a little bit new this year. You will play each league team 3 times, and Cabrillo played San Ynez and beat them in the first week of the season, and then played them twice last week to take 2 of 3 in the series. I was really impressed not only with Dylan, who is an awesome leadoff hitter, and Philip Martin, their senior pitcher. I was also impressed with Izzy Hernandez, who on Thursday, rough start to the game with Cabrillo, gives up 5 runs in the first 2 innings, shuts them down the next 4 innings, and comes through with his bat several times, including driving in 2 runs to win the game in the 7th inning. That was really impressive. And I also have gotten a chance to see Lompoc several times. Lompoc's in a slightly different situation. They lost their top 6 hitters from last season. No team can just bounce back from that. It's a completely remade lineup. But every time I see them, they're doing something a little bit better. I've watched them twice in the Righetti Spring Classic. They scored 8 runs against Helix, a really good team from the San Diego area. And Jesse Gasca pitched phenomenally well in a losing effort to Calabasas. So there is talent there in the Lompoc Valley baseball, and it is, it's always fun to watch Lompoc Valley baseball, which I'm learning in my first season there. And going away from baseball now to something incredibly different from baseball, but no less exciting, is we actually had Elliott Stern, our sports editor, had an opportunity for a different kind of sport, NASCAR.
Thank you. Yes, I did. It was great. NASCAR came to California. It's here every year. For the last few years, I've been fortunate enough to be able to cover the NHRA, the Hot Rodders. We have 2 people from this area that are very heavily involved in that sport. Alan Johnson from right here in Santa Maria, and Ron Capps from San Luis Obispo. But they were out of town, so what was close to town was NASCAR. They were in Fontana over the weekend of March 20 and 21. They had an Xfinity race, the TreatMyClot.com 300 on March 20th on Saturday, and then they followed that with the Auto Club 400, and it was all at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana. So it was great. It was different. Instead of watching the cars 1,000 feet straight line, who can go the fastest in under 4 seconds, these guys went a 2-mile tri-oval track. It wasn't an oval, it wasn't a circle, it was a tri-oval, sort of like a triangle with all the corners rounded. So it was a different kind of track, 2-mile long. And an interesting thing is there were 39 drivers in the NASCAR Sprint Cup race. 8 of them have California roots, and the championship came down to a battle between a guy from El Cajon and a guy from Bakersfield. So on Saturday, the Xfinity race had Kyle Busch leading most of the way, but it wasn't going to be his day. He blew a tire on the final lap, and this was a race where people they were just running out of gas at the end. And Daniel Suarez went by Kyle Busch immediately, but then he ran out of gas, and all of a sudden it looked like he was going backwards, and on 3 wheels, Busch and Austin Dillon went right by him. And then Dillon, who had some gas left in his tank, who had been drafting people and had the opportunity to save some gas, put his foot to the floor. Busch tried to bang into him and push him against the wall so he couldn't get by him, but Dillon had the power and he had 4 wheels, and he went on to win that race. And then a similar circumstance happened in the Sunday Sprint Cup, the 20th Annual Auto Club 400. Jimmie Johnson came into that race. He's the guy from El Cajon, and he was dressed as Superman. He wore the cape. His car had the big S and the whole emblem, and he and Dale Earnhardt had a battle. Dale Earnhardt was Batman, and it was all part of a movie promotion for a movie which obviously opened making millions of dollars its first weekend. And in the race, Superman beat Batman and everybody else. Earnhardt came in 11th, but it came down to tires, and people were blowing tires, and there weren't many accidents, but there was tire debris on the track. There were cautions for that a couple times, and with 2 laps to go in the race, a car blew its tire. There was debris on the race. They called it on the track. They called a caution, which led to a 2-lap green-white checker. And even though Kevin Harvick had led most of the race, Jimmie Johnson was quicker off the restarts all day long. And he was quicker off the restart this time. And Johnson, who's from El Cajon, ended up beating the Bakersfield kid, Kevin Harvick, on the last lap, on the last turn, and he went on to victory. And after the race, I had the chance to speak with him about how much fun he was having and how he ended up winning on that green-white checkered finish.
They are 3 wide in turn 3, but up front, Superman pulls away the man of steel. Will score his 77th win. Jimmie Johnson to the flag. Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and side by side for 5th, a photo finish between Ricky Stenhouse and Chase Elliott.
It is so much fun to drive the race car, and so much that the driver can control, setting up passes, looking for lines. Really just a ton of fun. Started 19th and worked our way forward quickly. And I really felt like midpoint of the race on, we were one of the top 2 or 3 cars, and the longer the run went, the better we were. And let's see, 2 stops from the end, we pitted, the caution came out shortly after, and I really felt like I could hold on and race for the lead, if not maybe move back to 2nd or 3rd. And I dropped like a rock and was pretty bummed out at that point and wasn't sure how the finish would go. And then Kyle had more unfortunate luck here with the tire, and it set up that final caution and pit stop. And I don't know where I came in the pits, but I know I came out way further forward than I did going in. My guys just crushed the pit stop, and a great restart. Great driving car. We weren't the best on the short run in all the previous restarts, but that restart, those 2 laps, whatever Chad did with tire pressures and adjustments on that last stop, the car was incredible. And I got a great launch off the bottom of turn 2, and it was next to the 4 down the back. And then I was just praying that I would hear clear as I turned into turn 3, and eventually I did. And at that point, I felt pretty good about bringing it home with just 1 more lap to go.
So NASCAR headed off to the middle of nowhere in Virginia. That's Martinsville, which is on the south central portion of Virginia, almost in North Carolina, and it's not near anything. But that's where they went. And then they're heading to Fort Worth, Texas. And the reason I bring that up is I have family that I have to go visit right about the time they're going to be in Fort Worth, so I'm going to take the opportunity to do another NASCAR race or 2, the Xfinity Auto Parts 300, followed by the Sprint Cup Duck Commander 400. I don't know if I'll get a duck call, but the Duck Commander 400, they're going to be in the Fort Worth, Texas, early in April, and I'll have a complete report for you right here on 805 Sports Talk. And of course, we'll put it in the paper and have things on our website. So that was an awful lot of fun to be able to do that. It was different than what we usually get covering all the high school sports and the college sports around here. But those high school sports are spectacular. And Kenny just had a chance to watch an epic softball game between Righetti High School and Arroyo Grande. So Kenny's going to tell us what was so special about that game.
That one really did have an epic finish. In fact, it was one of the most exciting finishes that I've seen in quite a while. 2 of the the two teams that tied for the championship in the Pac-8 went at it, and Righetti defeated Arroyo Grande 2-1, scoring both runs in the bottom of the 7th. Delaney Wiz scored the winning run on a wild pitch. All credit to Delaney. Some runners would freeze in that situation, but as soon as the pitch got by the Arroyo Grande catcher, Delaney took off, and she scored easily. I know coaches constantly try to drill it into their players that each team is allotted 21 outs, and until that 21st out is recorded against the team, that team's not out of it. Righetti had all of 2 hits against Arroyo Grande's Julie Lewis for the first 6 innings, and in the 7th, they got 4 hits and came up with the win. I thought Righetti's hitters did a really good job of going with Lewis's pitchers after striking out a dozen times over the first 6 innings. Jackie Prober figured that Lewis would come with a pitch over the inner half of the plate. That's what she did. Prober hit it for a ground rule double. Delaney Wiz did a good job of going with the pitch that seemed to be over the outer half of the plate. She hit a single to center. Then the bases were full, and they brought up a pinch hitter, Shayla Bautista, and it is not easy, as you all know, for a pinch hitter to come into the game cold in that situation. But Shayla, who's a right-handed hitter, also did a good job of going with a pitch that looked like it was on the outer half of the plate. She grounded a solid single to the right to tie the game, and then a little bit later, Delaney scored the winning run. It was a lot of fun to be at. It was almost a playoff-type atmosphere. It was kind of a small crowd, but the fans were really into it. And Joe and I were talking before the game, and with 2 quality pitchers, Lewis for Arroyo Grande and Katie Barbarick for Righetti, plus a typically strong wind at Righetti for this time of year that was typically friendly to pitchers and unfriendly to hitters. It was indeed a low-scoring game, and I'm looking forward to when the teams play again at Arroyo Grande. And Joe has spoken of Matt Sauer. I got to see him play in the Righetti Spring Classic on Tuesday night. Besides being an All-American pitcher and one of the team's best hitters, he's also a pretty slick fielding shortstop. I saw him go deep into the hole several times to snag the ball and throw the runner out at first. So an exciting player to watch.
Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, real quick on that game between Righetti and AG, I was there for a little bit. Definitely great to see Julie Lewis and Katie Barbarick go at it. I think they had 24 strikeouts combined. Jackie Prober with some big hits doing what she does, so that was a great game to see. All right, I know it's April, and I know most of you guys were hoping we'd stop talking about basketball, but, you know, we're almost done, I promise. So the CIF State Basketball Championships were last week. You know, we were all very interested in that. There's some connections between our local basketball teams. But first off, we're going to talk about a team that really doesn't have any connections to the Central Coast, but it was just a pleasure to watch Chino Hills basketball this year. They beat Concord de La Salle in the championship game Saturday night in Sacramento. They were down in the first quarter, stormed back, and they finished up 35-0 on the season. I know you've been following them throughout the year. They got 3 kids, the Ball brothers who are committed to UCLA. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Lonzo is a senior. He's going to be at UCLA next year. They have a freshman, LaMelo, and a junior, Angelo. 3 brothers who led a public school, Chino Hills, to a 35-0 record and 2 Open Division championships, Southern Section Open Division Championship, Open Division State Championship. It's great. You know, I went to public schools all my life, so it's cool to see a public school hang with the private schools like that. So definitely great to see Chino Hills, and just the way they play is just so exciting. Dunks, defense, full court pressure, nonstop offense. It was just a lot of fun to see a high school basketball team that pretty much plays, you know, like at NBA level.
Yeah, and just for some perspective, folks, when we say the 3 brothers are talented, the brothers averaged 70 points combined a game. This is a team that hit 100 points, I think it was 17 times in the regular season, maybe 18. You lose track after a while, which is what a lot of people did when they were watching the games themselves. This is an offense that considers it a failed possession if they don't score within the first 8 seconds. They want to just go. And you mentioned the youngest brother, LaMelo, is a freshman. He's supposed to be in the 8th grade. His dad moved him up to be a freshman so he could play one season with his brothers. And what does he do? He must weigh like 100 pounds. Is what he's pulling up from 5 feet beyond the arc and hitting 3-pointers, and he's tossing lobs up to the older players. Have you ever seen a team, whether it be a team that's so dependent on a group of brothers, but obviously a lot of other really talented players? They have a 6'9" freshman. Have you ever covered or read about a high school team that's potent as them?
I can't say I have, and you hit on it a little bit. It's not just the Ball brothers. They have the whole starting 5 is probably going to be playing Division I basketball. So I mean, it is really not too much more you can say about Chino Hills and what they did this year. It was a lot of fun to see. So yeah, and it's rare, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact a team like that can have on high school basketball. Seeing a public school succeed like that, it's going to be interesting. They're going to be good next year. I think all except Lonzo Ball, they're going to have like 4 starters back. Yeah. So. And they're not done yet.
And just one last thing, any local UCLA fans, you can kind of consider the Ball family to be the, Alfred Job Security Rescue Package, at UCLA. He gave back 1 year of his contract extension because they were so disappointed with this year. And now you've got 3 brothers all saying that they will attend UCLA, one going next year, then the following year, then 2 years after that. So, UCLA fans, I hope you like that coach because that family is going to keep him there.
Yeah, I want to see if they ever play together at UCLA because, they might all be one and done. If that happens, they probably won't ever play together at UCLA, but it'll be interesting to watch nonetheless. Kenny is going to talk about some more basketball, CIF basketball. He has some thoughts on the state championships and what he saw with the teams with area connections.
Actually, as I did field some for St. Bernard, that has to be hard. They defeated the team that defeated them in their Southern Section Championship game to get to the state championship game, the Division V state championship game. But then they fell to an always tough St. Joseph of Notre Dame team, which is based in Alameda, 55-50. So St. Bernard lost their sectional championship game, won their regional championship game, but lost in the state title game. That has to be hard. It's hard for me to, I guess I would rather win a sectional championship and then lose the state championship game than win a regional championship game and lose the state championship game. But I'm sorry, I would rather win a sectional championship, maybe not make the state tournament, than win a regional championship but lose the state tournament game. But that would be hard. That being said, I don't think there's enough credit given to teams for winning a regional championship. St. Joseph's girls basketball team beat a very good Sarah team that 1 year that they won the state championship in their division, the Sarah team that beat them in the sectional championship game. Pioneer Valley's girls wrestling team has won 3 Northern Regional. Pioneer Valley's girls wrestling team has won 3 Northern Regional championships in the CIF Southern section. So teams have to beat a lot of good competition to win a regional championship around here. So I think there should be more credit given to teams when they do win a regional championship. I think it's a bigger deal than it's made out to be.
Basketball season for us is pretty much over. But there's a lot of high school sports we're going to be following for all of you. Baseball, softball, there's volleyball, tennis, golf, there's all track and field, swimming. So it's not all basketball. And it's not all high school. Although I want to talk about one thing before we go, that it may have high school students participating, but it's not a high school. It is a high school sport, and it doesn't get enough press actually because we don't hear about it from them often enough. But it is a real part of the Central Coast history, and that's the rodeo. Now, the Santa Maria Elks Rodeo, 73rd annual, is coming up in June. And one of the things that is great about that is it always kicks off with the Manetti Mini Rodeo, and that'll be Thursday morning, June 2nd. Now, that's a great spectacular spectacle. They have 6,000 elementary school students. The only adults there are teachers and chaperones and a few of the rodeo people, the rodeo announcer, the rodeo clown, but it's a complete rodeo performance staged by kids for kids. And these kids are very talented. And now, the reason I bring that up is because if you're an adult, unless you're a teacher or a chaperone, you don't get to see that performance. And that's where the top 5 qualifiers from the Minetti Mini Rodeo qualifier get to have their buckle runs, to get the, win the buckles, saddles, they win cash. But there is something you can do, and it's coming up Sunday, April 17th, out at the Unical Event Center. They will have the annual Minetti Mini Rodeo qualifying, and that's where all of the team ropers and pole benders and barrel racers and breakaway ropers, that's where they will all compete. And the top 5 from the qualifier will then go on to the Mini Rodeo buckle runs on Thursday, June 2nd. But all of the kids, all of them, will be at the qualifier. So this is free, no admission fee. It is open to the public. And if you want to see the next generation of rodeo kids and then rodeo adults, this is a great time to go out and see it. And you won't be able to get into the mini rodeo when they have it Thursday morning, June 2nd, but you can go on out to the qualifier and you'll have a great time. I'll be there. I'll report for all of our Central Coast newspapers, but you don't have to wait for my story that'll be on the internet Sunday night and in the Santa Maria Times Monday morning. You can go out and enjoy these kids. And I mean, they've got them as young as 2, 3, and 4 years old doing barrel races. I've watched many of them. This will be my 16th year covering these kids, and I've watched a bunch of them grow up right in that arena, and they've gone on to college, and some are now married with kids, and some of them are actually competing on the pro rodeo circuit. So it's a chance for you to get out and see the next generation of rodeo, so I say it's Sunday, April 17th. It'll be starting about 10 a.m. So go on out and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and one more quick thought. Got to give a shout out to Santa Maria Baseball. They beat Lompoc twice last week. It was an emotional week for them. Ivan Nunez, I'm sure you guys are aware of that situation. So it was great to see them pull out 2 emotional wins last week. You know, being a Santa Maria high grad, played baseball there my freshman year, so it's cool to see the program headed in the right direction. So congrats to them. Hopefully they keep it up throughout the season. So good job, Saints. And that's our show for the week. Make sure you guys follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Follow the links online, SantaMariaTimes.com, LompocRecord.com. I'm on Twitter at JBaileySMSports, Jacobs at JN Rayburn. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. And also, obviously, our print publications as well.
Print publications, online. We update all the time. We're there for you, covering the local sports. So make sure you join us one way or another, either online or in print, every day. Santa Maria Times, LompocRecord.com, and in your daily newspapers from the Santa Maria Times. Thank you all for being with us. We'll see you next time.